Is it live? Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to call the meeting of the Dixon Unified School District Governing Board to order, and we are going to adjourn to closed session. I will announce that there was nothing to report out of closed session, and everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you all. And we have a full complement of board members, so everyone is present. Notice to the public, persons wishing to speak on an agenda items may let us know about that at this time. While the written request is optional, if you make a request, you'll be recognized first. So we are going to move on into our next item, which is item number 5, recognition of guests and presentations. And it looks like we have one this evening.
We sure do. And we'd really like to thank Emily Prescott for joining us tonight. And she may have brought some of the rest of her team along with her. We're going to let Emily describe what she and these others have been up to, but it's been a very positive, constructive things to do for students in our community, the young people in our community, with regard to some wonderful little bags of things to help them be well. So Emily, thank you. We welcome you, and the Zoom room is yours.
Okay, and I am sharing this time with Miss Tawny Chestnut, the
Hello, everyone.
school counselor that she is.
Hi.
We do have a little slideshow to help show you images of what we are doing so you can see and understand, but I will turn the time over to her and we'll just bounce back and forth as we share this with you.
Yeah,
Super.
I just have to, can I have permission to share my screen? There we go. Thank you so much. So let me pull this up. So we are here today, as you shared, to talk about a really amazing project that we've been working on together, Emily and I. These are called Student Emergency Self-Care Kits, and we're here today to talk to you about the purpose of them, what they are, how we're getting them out in the community, and really the response that we've gotten so far from the community. So let me share with you just who we are a little bit. As I said, Emily is the one, she's the mastermind behind all of this, and I've just kind of been behind her, pushing her along and encouraging her. But I'm the school counselor over at Dixon Montessori. I have a master's in counseling, but I'm also studying to be a marriage and family therapist, and I have a people personnel services credential, so I know really a lot about what it means to do what these self-care kits are teaching our students to do, which is a lot of mindfulness and caring for ourselves and advocating for our mental well-being, as well as Emily, I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Okay, I have been a member of the city of Dixon for about 10 years and we love it here. My children have all attended Dixon Montessori. My youngest is in 2nd grade and my oldest is in 8th grade and looking forward to going to high school. So my background and the reason why I even have this information is because I have sought help for myself and now mentor groups for women in trauma recovery. So
thank you. Yeah. So let me start with kind of where this all began, which is that within the social emotional lessons that I'm teaching the students at DMCS, we talk about mindfulness, of course, that's kind of a buzzword all around. But one of the activities that we're really in the midst of right now, and the timing has been really beautiful, is we've been talking about the use of our 5 senses as it correlates to mindfulness and self-care and helping ourselves when we're in stressful situations or even in uncomfortable situations. And this is one of the activities that I do with the students. And I've been breaking up into little parts where one day we'll focus on touch, one day we'll focus on taste. but just kind of giving them an emergency panic button, that when they are feeling very overwhelmed and stressed, that there are things that they can do, that they can notice and be aware of their surroundings. And I put this in this slide because I thought it was interesting to think about, like, the way through a child's eyes, how I've explained this to them. I've talked to them about how when they feel uncomfortable, they might feel like this kitty. And I know we've all felt that way, especially during Zoom meetings, or, you know, when we're not, things on the news, we feel like this. So I talk about how uncomfortableness happens to all of us. It's a part of being alive and being a human, but that there are things that we can do. There are actions that we can take that help us to be this kitty up here at the top, to help us to find our inner calm and really step into that. So that's what I've been working on with the students. And I received an email from Emily, and we're going to segue over into Emily's story because I think it's important to hear from her where this all began. So Emily, take it away.
I have been really grateful as I've overheard my students' classes, especially the one I overhear the most is PE, because most of the time they have their headsets on. And the teachers have been doing an amazing job helping them get in touch with their body and being aware of themselves. And so having that and knowing that that was something that they had been learning as we got into the holiday season. I'm sorry, I should have brought tissue. Can you go get me a tissue real quick? We had the loss of a child, and not just in our community, but surrounding areas close to us, and maybe even some of us, with the way we are so connected through social media, have seen the struggles that our youth have been having with this isolation and feeling powerless. Seeing that need as I was trying to help another adult, another fellow woman who I loved, and helping her have some tools that I have had, sharing with her things that have helped me, and having those two things cross paths, I wanted desperately to make sure I got my kids a kit too. I have this little kit that, as I have been processing my trauma triggers and finding ways to help me work through my anxiety and my depression, I have learned mindfulness, and this little kit that I have is what I call my emergency self-care kit. It helps pull me out of a spiral of worry and fears, or the past or future, and really pulls me to a place of present. The things in that tool and that kit are things that engage my senses, help me bring myself back to me in the moment. And I really wanted to make something for my kids as I've watched them have anxiety, frustrations, grieving the loss of what they have, what we've all lost this year, their normal. And so we made a list of things that we could put in their kits. And that was an empowering moment. And this is what led to wanting to put kits together. Empowering our youth, empowering our children, our young children, to be able to have choice and step out of the chaos that's around them, the lack of control that's around them, into themselves and where their power really lies, and really finding a place where they can make choices for themselves to help themselves, and have those tools to do that. And this kit is a tool to help them use their inner tools.
So this is something that Emily reached out to me, and she said, I have this crazy idea. Could we do something with this? And I said, yes, this is amazing, because I've been doing these lessons. And if I could talk to them about the kit that's in front of them, and they actually have things to touch and feel and use, and I could actually tell them in a moment of worry that let's find your kit and let's use it. It was just an amazing moment. And it was on a day that I really needed to have some encouragement. And so we decided to take this idea of self-care and this self-empowerment, as well as this body awareness, which is really something that from a trauma standpoint is so important, because we take our bodies with us everywhere. We need to be able to find that inner sense of safety in the midst of everything that's going on. So we wanted to combine these two things together. And when we joined forces and reached out to the community, they really answered. And these are the kits. Let me let Emily share more about what are in these kits.
Okay, so These are the kits that my children made. In the kit, 5 senses. You will see in these pictures images of things that you can touch. Squishy balls, fuzzy, something fuzzy and warm, little keychain. For touch, for smell, they have little candles and little wax melts that smell good. For taste is their favorite. And actually my son's kit that I have right now, I asked him to bring it to me. He's like, well, there's nothing in there for taste. And I'm like, of course there's not, because it's the best one. It's the best one to be mindful about. So you'll see taste and so we did sight, we did touch, taste, smell, sight, and sound. These can be tricky ones to put in a bag, but beautiful pictures to look at and notice is something we could put in a bag. The world around us is something that the children can do on their own, but having something to visually look at, something that is visually stimulating to be curious about, something that can visually bring comfort. These things are perfect. Also, because sound is not something you can drop in a bag easily. We do have a couple DIY kits that we put together for chimes to see how that goes when we pass out kits this weekend. We'll see how that goes. But one of the most powerful things for sound, for us to hear empowering words, for us to speak empowering words, to hear our own voice speaking empowering words, to hear the voices of those around us that love us, that we feel safe with, that we trust. Those words are powerful. And so in their kits, they have written down their powerful words that they can speak out loud to themselves. And these things are all in a little kit that they can keep right next to their desk or next to the bed, or take with them wherever we're going, if we're going on road trips or whatnot. So as you can see, these are really simple bags. And our community has shown up in amazing ways that we have boxes of items in a great variety to have items that will resonate with different children, because that's another important part of this, is an item that resonates with the child that they feel a connection to. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, there's we've made, as of today, we've made 750 kits for the students of Dixon. Yeah, 215 already have them. And they also, I wanted to share that we have like a little slip in there so they know how to use their self-care kit. And we also have resources for both parents and for students that have little QR codes, hotline numbers on there, places that they can text, call, or email at any hour, anytime. So those are in their self-care kits as well. But the kits themselves are available, and we have tomorrow, we have a time slot between 3 and 5, as well as on Saturday from 1 to 3. It's in the Dixon Montessori parking lot, and every child that wants one is going to get one. And we're really hoping that we run out. I know that sounds strange, but we're really hoping that we are, because if every student has one, there's just one more step of getting out there what it is that they can do to really empower themselves to take care of themselves, but also just know that there's something that they can do, that it's not just, there really is a lot of hope there. So we've been really excited not only about the monetary donations, but also people have donated. These are all of the very special thank you to everyone who's donated. We've had businesses donate. And we really feel like this is also a piece of these self-care kits for students, is that the fact that we've had so many donations has made it that everyone in their family can get one. Even if they're not students, they can get one. It could be a part of their family culture to say, it looks like you're having a hard time, go find your kit. Just something that really can help our students and our families during this really uncertain time. Emily, do you want to add anything before we're done?
Just another big thank you. Thank you to board members that have seen us. Melissa, thank you so much for seeing those posts, for sharing them, for helping get the outreach out. I know having this be done at Dixon Montessori, there was confusion on whether it was just for our school, but it's not our school that's been supporting this. It's been the Dixon community who has been supporting this project, and is for the children and families in our community. This is a beautiful way we can connect during this time where so many are feeling disconnected. Not only do these kits help us connect with ourselves, but because of the beautiful donations and the way that this has come together, it is connecting the community to the children, and the children being able to feel and love the support. The faces on parents when we did this a few weeks ago, the faces on those children when we did this a few weeks ago were miracle moments. And I wish I could just share that moment with everybody. And I can't give you my experience, but sharing our gratitude and hope for continued support so that we can get this to every single child and in every single family.
We want to keep doing it. So that's part of why we're here as well, is that if you're interested in supporting us, or if there's any way that you feel like you know a connection of more things that we could add into our kits and do more, we want to keep doing it, and we want it to be available to as many people as want it in their hands. So that's what we're here to do, not only share what we've done, but share that we want to keep doing it. So thank you all so much for your time and your precious, precious attention. Thank you so much.
Oh, I want to thank you, Tani and Emily, and just a couple of comments.
Sure.
So, I mean, really, thank you both for coming and sharing these. And you know, Emily, I appreciate you making yourself vulnerable and sharing a little bit of who you are and what brings you to this. I think if it's not, it's many of us, if not most of us, who carry things around with us, right? And I'm one of those. For me, it's the nasty bug of depression, and it's hard. And in these days, I see, over recent years, depression, anxiety growing in our children, and then you throw this, what's been happening since March into the mix, and it's just a very, very really deeply concerning time with regards to kids. And so as a guy who loves kids in Dixon, regardless of where they go to school or if they're in school or any of that stuff, I just want to say thank you. As the superintendent of schools of Dixon Unified, I want to say, we're ready to partner up with you folks and make sure that this really does get across the whole community, and that every student, every child gets one of these, has access to one of these. So Adrienne Lauder is our pupil services coordinator, and I saw she's in this meeting. And our next meeting on the 21st, Adrienne will be doing a full presentation about our programs and services that we've got going on. But I'll have Adrienne make contact with you, Tani. We'll do it through the school venues first and make sure that we're able to align our resources. And we've got plenty of things that we can contribute to this. First and foremost, great people, but secondly, the ability to perhaps purchase some of the materials to go in the bags and support this effort. So
thank you so much.
Very genuinely.
Just for an idea, I want to just mention, because of the way we've been able to do this on a larger scale than individual, like doing kits for my kids cost a little bit more per kit when we just did it for ourselves, but we've been able to make kits for about $2.50 per kid, and it's been incredible.
Okay. Yeah.
And Brian, can you make sure that on our website tomorrow we've got the dates of their distribution so people will know?
Yes.
We can share that out. Yeah.
And we will share links to the flyers that can be, we would love if you guys could post those. So we'll put those in the comments if those can be uploaded. So I have a link. We have links for a Spanish flyer and an English flyer, and also a link for Sign Up Genius for any volunteers. We have a couple slots left for this weekend's distribution.
Terrific. Yeah.
Thank you.
My executive secretary is in the meeting, so she can pull those out of, chat's disabled.
Yeah, I know I was going to share, but it was
actually
email it.
Yeah.
You can email.
Tani, why don't you just email it to bdolan@dixonusd.org, and I will forward that on to Cicely, and Cicely can actually get that out on Facebook.
Okay.
Here during the meeting, our Facebook page, and please share that out then everywhere that you possibly can. And I do a weekly update every Friday that goes out to our families. I'll put the information in there, especially for Saturday. Usually goes out on Friday afternoon, and then we'll look forward to working with you,
Awesome.
folks, on this rolling forward.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you for your work. Okay, we're going to move on. Oh, correspondence. Do we have any correspondence?
None this evening, no.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda, but I'm actually going to pull item B from the consent agenda and move it into the next column there, section 8, so that we can change our agenda a little bit for tonight. So I will entertain a motion on the consent agenda minus item B.
So move.
There's motion. Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second. We need to do a roll call vote. Jewel,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Lloyd,
Aye.
DJ,
Aye.
and I as well. Great. The consent agenda passes. And now moving on to item 8. What I'd like to do is move item 11B from this agenda onto our next agenda. And I want to explain the reason for doing that. We are currently in a special meeting, not a regular meeting, and that's because it wasn't on our original list of meetings that we published when we were going to be meeting. So now it has to be a special meeting. Although meeting with you all the time is special always. So, but this is called a special meeting, and so we can't actually work on any items of compensation in a special meeting. So this was accidentally put on here, and we're going to move it to a regular meeting where we can address this particular item. So I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for January 7th minus item 11B.
So
I'll
moved.
move. I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Fantastic. Jewel,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Lloyd,
Aye.
DJ,
Aye.
and I as well. Fantastic. We're cooking here. All right, moving on to stakeholder communications. Lucas.
All right. So hello, everybody.
Hey,
Thank you very much,
Lucas.
Emily and Tawny, for everything that you've done for us. I truly appreciate it, speaking on behalf of the students. I only have a couple announcements today for this meeting. First, I would like to happily announce that our first Zoom social hour for students at Dixon High School will happen Monday, January 11th from 12 to 1. I encourage all students to invite your friends to join us as well, because there will be an option to hang out in breakout rooms and hang out with your friends and talk, because I know everybody needs that. Of course, I will be there if you have any questions. Lastly, I want to remind both students and parents to check your emails, because there's information going out, including updates, scheduling classes for next year, credit recovery programs, etc. I hope everybody had a great and relaxing holiday season, and I'm looking forward to the new year. That's all I got for you.
Great. Thank you,
Thanks, sir.
Lucas. And I love the idea of that, of your student hangout thing. That's fantastic. Great idea.
Is next week finals week too, right?
It is not.
2 weeks away?
Week after, week of the,
Yeah,
where
it's
are we?
not.
Yes, week of the 18th, week of the 18th.
Got
Yeah.
it.
All right. Is there anybody from the Citizens Oversight Committee? I don't see Tad on our list. Is there any report? Okay, moving on. Any employee association reports?
I do. I have something to report. Good evening, board members and Superintendent Dolan. I do want to take the opportunity to welcome our new board member, Mr. Bowen. It is nice to see you here, and I wasn't able to do so last meeting, so I wanted to do that tonight. I am the SEIU president, Mr. Bowen, Susie Altieri. I do have a few things to report on. I do want to let you know we are continuing weekly meet and confirm meetings. Many of our members have heightened concerns right now, obviously, particularly with the stay-at-home orders and the surging COVID, especially in Dixon. We would like to see revisions and adjustments to our MOU during the stay-at-home orders to ensure the safety of our members. We have many of our members who are not able to work from home, but essentially the guidance has always been, if you're able to work from home, you should be working from home. For those who are essential employees and still have to remain at work, we would like to see some adjustments to lessen their exposure as well. And then I also wanted to bring forward an issue we would like to address through negotiations, and that is the $14 an hour minimum wage law that went into effect on January 1st. This law affects two of our lowest paid employees on our salary schedule. But it does really essentially, it involves the entire progression of our salary schedule for all of our members. So we would like to see this taken care of as soon as possible. The district really is obligated to do so in order to comply with the law. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about and just give you a little quick update on our PD. Many of our members are taking full advantage of this PD that's been provided for them. Right now, we're going through a series of wellness PDs, which has been obviously a really great time for them to take this opportunity to get some support around that. And then we really are hopeful that we continue with many other offerings for our members, that this isn't just going to be a one-time thing. We want to see it an ongoing offerings for our classified, just so we can continue to provide them tools and support. So that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Susie.
Thank you.
Okay, any parent association reports this evening? All right, seeing none. We're going to move into the public comment section. This is an opportunity for you to comment on something that's not on the agenda. Now, the board isn't actually able to act on things not on the agenda, but this is your opportunity to talk about anything, members of the public, that you would like to, that's within the board's jurisdiction. So if you would like to do that, you can raise your hand and we'll recognize you. Okay, it looks like we have no public comment at this time. So we're going to move into our item 11A.
Great, thank you, Catlin. So this evening, I want to talk again around the issues, the questions and issues of reopening school for in-person instruction. But we have something very concrete and tangible that broke last week that provides something of a new framework for the dialogue. And this is an announcement made by Governor Newsom regarding California Safe Schools for All plan. And in the backup that you can find online, I attached 3 documents that were published by California Department of Health in conjunction with the governor's announcement. And then one document that was provided by School Services of California, which gives a more concise and narrow breakdown of this plan. So I regularly look at articles on a great site. I encourage anybody with an interest in education to look at EdSource, EdSource. And a document that I was reading yesterday had a series of questions with quick answers regarding the Safe Schools for All plan, and thought that it would be wise to run through these very quickly, then clarify the most significant requirements that we have to address if we are going to pursue the opportunities that this plan presents. Give you a little bit of status report on the work we've been doing. It seems like forever ago, but it was December 17th. So this is just our 5th school day, I guess, since we last met. But we have been working with both of our labor partners in the period since our last meeting, and then be looking for some direction or affirmation of comments the board has previously made regarding our intentions around reopening. So Mark, if you can let me share my screen, please, I would appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so gonna really try to move through these very, very quickly, and can loop back if there are any follow-ups. So the first question, what is the rationale for the plan? The governor's rationale is that in-person instruction is the best thing for kids and that it can be done safely despite the risks posed by COVID. Second question, will it be safe to bring students back? And the governor's view, and I share it myself, is yes, with the proper precautions in place, it will be safe. And in particular, the governor and others who've worked on this believes that in the earliest age groups, that it is the safest, that you see the least evidence of transmission happening in the youngest kids out in our populations and in other school settings that have already reopened. Third question, what incentives are there for districts to participate? There's actually very large incentives to participate. You have $450 per student for each district that participates in this program, pursuing the reopening through this plan. You also have an additional figure that essentially is driven by what we call the supplemental and concentration grant formula. Our targeted students who are on free or reduced lunch, our English learners, our foster youth, or our homeless. And the early indications are that that figure can be as high as $250 per student in districts, depending on, again, the percentage of population of those students that they have. So there's a very large amount of money that potentially is available to districts who pursue this. So we'll see what happens in the end. But as advertised up to this point, there's a lot of funding available. Number 4, does the governor's plan require legislative approval? Yes, it does. And what we'll say tonight is the timing of this approval is very questionable. The legislature is currently not engaged in the process of reviewing and moving towards passage of this legislation. Legislators were involved in the development of this plan option. However, there's currently no process in place. The legislature is not even in session at this time. Can all schools participate is question 5. Yes, they can. But in a county, you have to have less than 28 cases per 100,000 population happening. And right now we are well beyond that in Solano County. So that 28 cases per 100,000 is a higher allowance than what you have in the purple tier, right? But it is it's still a significant rate of cases happening. But other than that, that 28 case ratio, there's another point I'll make here, sorry, about what you can do if you're less than 14, between 14 and 28, excuse me. Right now, just to give you an idea of the statewide metric, and we know that there's great variance between counties in the state, but the statewide metric for cases per 100,000 is 74 right now. You have to be below 28 to do this, and the statewide average, and we are not at the state average, but we remain very high. We're a long way off. What do schools have to do to participate? I'm going to highlight that below. Number 7, does the program extend to children in all grades? No, it does not. It begins with transitional kindergartners, and in our case, it would end at 5th grade. Elementary sites that have 6th graders at them can include 6th grade, but since our 6th graders are at the middle school setting, for Dixon, this would be limited to TK through 5th. Will schools in counties in the purple tier be allowed to reopen? Yes, if you have that less than 28 per 100,000 ratio. So again, we are going to be in the purple tier for a while. That's very clear. It is possible that the one indicator of cases per 100,000 could drop below 28. Other indicators that keep us in purple would remain in place, but you could still be eligible for reopening under this plan as it is currently listed. Question 9, will children have to attend schools that reopen? No. Distance learning will be required. As we've talked about reopening, we've maintained the position that distance learning would be available. If you participate in this option, distance learning is a requirement. And where will the funds to pay for the program come from? We're all hearing about how tight money is. We actually have a pretty significant state budget surplus. that is happening right now. There was a pretty pessimistic doom and gloom budget adopted in June by the state, and tax revenues are far exceeding projections. And so the governor has earmarked $2 billion of the surplus to be the funding source for this particular program. Question 11, what about middle and high school students? The proposal is silent at this point in time regarding middle and high school students. It only goes up through grade 6. And as I said, for us, it would be grade 5. Do school districts have to do anything extra to receive the funds? Yes, we do something really, really, really significant. If you are between that 28 and 14 cases per 100,000, you have to test everyone every week. That's students and staff. So weekly testing for all students and staff if you are between 14 and 28 cases per 100,000 population in your county. If you drop below the 14 out for every 100,000, then testing happens every 2 weeks. So this testing requirement is a huge addition to the program around returning schools to in-person instruction. 13, will schools that have already opened for in-person instruction be able to participate in the program? It doesn't impact us in Dixon, but it does appear that that is the case. Who will pay for COVID testing? Another huge question, right? Especially with that information you just received. So the information we have at this point in time, it's supposed to be your private health plans and medical insurance, Medi-Cal funding as well. And what is suggested at this point in time is that districts would have to pay for anyone who is uninsured. There's a lack of clarity around this whole issue at this point in time, around the whole testing component. So we will see what happens there. When does the program start? We have serious concerns about the feasibility of being able to meet these deadlines, and they are dependent on getting below that 28 cases per 100,000 population. But the TK through second program of in-person instruction is slated to begin on February 15th. February 15th for the TK2, and then the 3rd through 5th graders, you would have to begin by March 15th. So a month apart. There's nothing that would prevent you from going on a faster track, should you wish to do so. But districts across the state really are concerned about how quickly this moves. How much support and opposition is there to the plan? So this is a little bit of the politics. Initial responses from school districts, superintendents, advocacy groups, school board association, administrative advisory groups and such, was pretty positive. As people got further into the details, which are still very limited, people became concerned about how easily this can actually be done. So there is a welcome of the idea of assistance to reopen. There's concern about the particular approach that this plan offers to us. The last question that EdSource had is, what position have the 2 largest teachers unions in the state taken on the plan? And the quote from the California Teachers Association regarding CTA said that their response had been lukewarm. They had concerns about, again, the feasibility, the practicality of implementing some of these elements on such short timing. The California Federation of Teachers said it's a start, but they needed to proceed cautiously. And SEIU, which represents our classified employees, said we have to move forward safely. And I guess reading between the lines, there's no guarantee that this allows for that. So there's a whole bunch of real basic information, and now, and I might talk about these a little bit more, these significant requirements that are in the plan that you have to meet, okay? So talked about timing and feasibility. So the every district who's gonna pursue this has to submit a COVID-19 safety plan based on the California Department of Public Health guidance, which is going to be released tomorrow. And in our case, we'd have to present that to the Solano County Office of Education by February 1st. So that's 3 weeks. And what we expect with the public health guidance coming out from the state tomorrow is that a great deal of it will align with what we already have, both from previous public health guidance, and also before the holidays, we received regulations from Cal OSHA, so the Occupational Safety and Health Agency. And so we have been working with what we believe will be the bulk of the guidance or requirements that will come out tomorrow. And I'd want to make sure people understand that we have been engaged in the development of our safety plan for an extended period of time, that our negotiations process deals to a very large degree with this plan. And so seeing this new option of the Safe Schools for All plan and a safety plan requirement doesn't mean we start from square one. We have a very large amount of the work on the safety plan completed, and we are continuing to work with both of our labor partner groups. Second bullet, you have to submit a ratified collective bargaining agreement or memorandum of understanding no later than February 1st. Again, that's 3 weeks from now. And the reality for districts across the state to complete bargaining in that short amount of time is viewed as a significant challenge. We continue to meet with SEIU weekly and the Dixon Teachers Association twice weekly. We have a full day of negotiations scheduled with DTA tomorrow. So we are taking very seriously our obligation to engage in this process, and we're making progress. But we, like really all districts that within Solano County for sure, but as you read things across the state, are very concerned about having all of that work finalized prior to the end of the month. I've already mentioned you start in TK through second, and there's some language which was not specified elsewhere. Some of the specialized cohorts across all grade spans, as we've talked previously about our students with disabilities or students with mental health or behavioral concerns, they would fall in those specialized cohorts. You see the March 15th for grades 3 through 5. I'm sorry, I have a typo there. And then once you start doing this, unless there's an order from public health, you have to remain open. So a district taking the funding could not voluntarily or independently say, we're going back to distance learning. If you take the funding, you must remain open unless you're ordered to close. And finally, you have to maintain a quality distance learning program. You cannot, because you reopen, kind of drop the DL ball. You have to maintain that, make sure the students there have access to everything that they need to be successful. So that, folks, is the quick look at that plan. What we're asking the board to do tonight is to provide us with any feedback or direction regarding our approach to this plan. For those who have not been present for other meetings or may have missed this particular kind of item that we have been going through, the board has been, in my estimation, very clear about our intent to return to in-person instruction as soon as is safely possible. And so that is what we have been working toward, both in our functions as administrators and planning and budgeting, et cetera, but also through the negotiations process. So I don't think that the calendar turning over from 20 to 21 at the end of the date sequence has likely changed that, but we would welcome any questions from the board first, and then your direction to us after you've taken public input and we've fielded any questions. So I'll stop there and let's take.
Lucas, it looks like you have a question. Why don't you go ahead and go first?
Yeah, I have a question. So once we're in there, it seems like there's going to be a lot of like COVID testing and everything like that. What happens and what protocols do we have if a staff member or a student tests positive? And how many positives make it so that it goes back into distance learning and like those specifics? Do we have any answers on those?
Yeah, so we expect some clarity out of the guidance that is coming from California Department of Health tomorrow, Lucas. There's language in the Cal OSHA regs that have come to us, and we've been working already on implementing those into our safety plan that we've been working on. We do expect, from what we've heard so far, is that what comes out tomorrow will align very closely with that OSHA documentation. But we've got to see the final, starting tomorrow to be able to nail those down. Those are the types of things that will have to be in a plan for to reach an agreement with on negotiations. Those are going to be there. But I also think just for parents and staff, students to have confidence that they're going back into a safe environment, those kind of provisions are essential. Good question.
I have a question.
Okay, Jewel, go ahead.
Yeah, the vaccine is here, although it seems very far away at this point. And I've heard that teachers might be moved up from the first group, maybe to the second group, along with people over a certain age. And I was even hearing today on the news that it's like from 50 to and up. But it seems to me, and of course, we probably will not be able to ensure that everyone takes the vaccine, even if it is available. But how is that going to affect our community's perception of safe schools?
Yeah, I think staff being vaccinated would be a positive with regards to perception. But I will tell you that at this time, we have zero formal guidance or information regarding vaccine availability for school staff. We will have our first meeting with Solano County Public Health since December 18th, tomorrow at noon, talking with my colleagues, other superintendents in the county. We're all very, very interested to see what the information is on the vaccines. Back on December 18th, Solano County Public Health expressed their disappointment that they had virtually no information themselves at that point in time. So we know that in the region, healthcare workers are being vaccinated at this time. We know that school staff are in the second tier, but there's many groups in each tier. We see from what's happening in other places across the country that states have flexibility in terms of the order in which they're vaccinating people. So who knows what will happen? But right now, I cannot point to a single piece of official communication, formal communication regarding vaccines, unfortunately.
Brian, can I ask a question?
I think DJ was next, Melissa.
Sorry.
Jewel, I would just say that I had a chance to talk to Dr. Matias, the Solano County public health official, and he talked a lot about vaccines. So we're further along than a couple of our neighboring counties in terms of that progression down the list. So that's good news in that regard. My question though is with regards to having families notify the district whether they intend to engage in in-person or distance learning, and what that, considering this timeline is so tight, would it basically be from February 1st to February 15th, then as a teacher, I got to know how to plan for how many kids are going to be in the room versus how many kids are going to be digital and all that type of stuff. So that could also be a tight timeline. I don't know how, fleshed out that thought process has been.
Yeah, we have been discussing it and looking at it, and really anticipate that we would need to ask that question ideally about 4 weeks prior to the start of in-person instruction. And as I look at the calendar, that would be at about the end of next week if we were to be really viewing a February 15th start. And so, as we talk about timeline, that seems entirely impractical to be asking that question next week with so many elements of uncertainty in this whole circumstance. So we will see what comes from California Department of Public Health tomorrow. The governor does hold a new press conference announcing his January budget proposal. We'll see if there's more information related to this specifically tomorrow. I'm not particularly optimistic. There'll be a great deal of specifics on this. So we have about as much information in the backup material from public health that I've found available anywhere. So we really don't know very much, and that's really hamstringing things like, what are you going to ask parents and when, right?
All right, Melissa.
So technically right now, I think we're in blue because we're at a stay-at-home order. But if at any point in time we get to red though, then our secondary kids can go back under this current plan.
Correct. Right.
And we'll be ready when that happens to send our secondary kids back as
Correct.
well.
Correct. Yes. And what we don't know right now is, what I think would happen, which is a dangerous thing to say, is that if you're participating in this and you want to get your secondary program started regardless, we don't think that participating in this program would prevent you from doing that, right? But we don't know that for certain, right? But if our goal is, as we have stated over and over, that we want to get all kids back as soon as we safely can, then yeah, you absolutely continue to work on the secondary programs.
Well, this hasn't even been ratified by the legislature. It's kind of like the cart before the horse.
It's my understanding that as long as you obey the small, stable cohort language of 16 people, minimum one adult thing, then you might be able to pull anything off.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other questions on this item? All right, and it looks like you want a little direction from us, although we're not taking formal action tonight. Is that
right?
Correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Because we don't know what you could act.
Right. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. It's just listed as action. So I just wanted to clarify that you're not
Yes.
expecting us to act on this in any way tonight.
No.
And I just want to say that I think the board has been pretty public about wanting to open up, and I think, as Melissa said, we want to make sure we're ready to open. So at the minute we can go, we want to go, and probably just want to emphasize to everybody that we need to be ready. We need to be completely ready at the minute that we can go. So if anybody else has other comments that they want to add, I was just sort of trying to sum up things we've said in the past.
We're going to wait for public comment before we take any action.
We are going to wait. I'm asking you guys now if you have anything else you want to add on this.
No, you said it well.
All right, thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to open for the public to comment on this item. If you want to comment on this item, please raise your hand. All right, looks like we have Brenda Turgeon.
Thank you. With all of the planning that's in place, and I know to a certain extent this is also a DTA issue, but I'm wondering what kind of options will be put in place for teachers who don't want to go back to in-person. Families are provided the option of sending their kids back or keeping them at home. What will the options be for teachers? We still are in a pandemic. We have 2 mutations floating around the world that have an 70% increased transmission rate. We have a community here who travels. I have family members in my class and students with COVID right now. They were asymptomatic at the beginning of the week. If they had come to school, I don't even want to think about what might happen. I have vulnerable family members at home. At the beginning of the school year, I applied for a waiver. I didn't qualify for that. I'm sorry, an accommodation, because I'm not the one who's sick. But I have 3 family members who are extremely vulnerable. So I very much need to know what will be done for teachers, or is it going to be the same thing? No, Brenda, you can't have an accommodation because you're not the one who is sick. So I'd just like to have an idea of what those options are for teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Sorry, I was on mute. If anybody else has, it looks like Julie has a comment, and we will answer all questions at the end of this. So Julie, go ahead with yours.
Hi, thank you. So I have a question. When and if they do go back and some students elect to stick with distance learning, has it been decided if there would be like a Zoom screen ran by the teacher and then the other students would be present? Will it be a hybrid that we talked about?
All right. And Kathleen, you may go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Good evening. My question is, and I know that this is maybe treading into negotiation territory, but nonetheless, I want to put on the table for consideration, what plan is there? What contingency plan is there if a staff member were to contract COVID once FFCRA has expired in March? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for public comment before we close public comment and begin to answer your questions? Okay, seeing none. Brian, if you want to go ahead and answer those 3 questions, that'd be great.
You betcha. So the first question was regarding options for teachers who don't want to go back in person. So I think the best answer that I can give is that we will follow the law. And the current provisions under law for reasonable accommodations do establish the fact that Brenda referred to, that you're eligible when you have a medical condition yourself. And should a family member have a medical condition, that's not the circumstance in which you can qualify. Now, there are other leaves that are available, including FMLA. There's California leave as well, and then you have leaves that are available through the district via contract and policies. Judging anyone's particular circumstance right now isn't really a practical thing to do. The kind of a restate of her question at the end was, will it be like it was in the fall? I would expect that to a very, very large degree, unless there's some changes in law, it will be the same. The exception I will make to that is that at this time, as of December 31st, FFCRA terminated. So Kathleen mentioned the date of March 30th, but FFCRA expired, sunsetted at the end of the calendar year here. So currently that is not in place. So Julie's question was, how would we take care of mixed classes, those where, well, how would you address a class where some families wanted to do in person and some families wanted to do distance, and had that been finalized at this point in time? It hasn't been finalized, and quite honestly, we think we would be seeing differences between elementary setting and secondary setting to accommodate the issues around instruction in both instances. In the secondary setting, with students taking either 6 or 7 classes, and being such a wide array of classes across the curriculum, it's very, very difficult to foresee having a separate class of, pick a class, AP Biology, or Spanish 3, which there's not much of, or Native Spanish 2, or pick a Drawing 2-3 or a specific computer class. It's really impractical to think that you could have a distance class where the students are working with an individual teacher and have enough students in that to justify the staffing level, right? Giving a full period of a teacher in a class that might be serving 6 or 7 students just financially is not viable. And so I would think there's a greater likelihood of having that Zoom into the class at the secondary level than in elementary. In elementary, you know, along the same lines, what we've seen elsewhere is that there is, let's say, at a school with 3 third-grade classrooms, that you may end up about a third of them in distance learning and then 2 regular in-person classes. In a lot of places, that has led to shuffling of students between teachers, which is a really, really concerning development for most families, and I don't like it either. We do know, and we saw one down at Kairos Charter in Vacaville, where they are Zooming all students who are working distance into their classrooms. So that can certainly be done. It is, I think it's harder to do in some ways for students with more challenging learning needs because, well, in some ways they're better connected to their teacher, and in other ways they're more connected during synchronous time via Zoom in the current structure of half of their class there at one time. So we would have to navigate that for sure, but we have seen both options in practice. And you know, I for one, and I know Catlin, you and Melissa, who were on that visit, were impressed by what we saw at Kairos. You know, that's certainly an option. Although I think it's a better option myself at the secondary setting for those reasons that I spoke of. So bottom line, Julie, we don't have that finalized at this point in time, but are looking at both approaches. Again, I think we're talking different approaches for the different levels. And then Kathleen's question, again, something similar to Brenda's, you know, the idea of what types of leaves and accommodations are available for staff. And I want to make sure we recognize that those questions apply for both certificated and classified staff. And we have 3 confidential employees, and there's an administrative group as well. So it really covers the entire district when we consider those elements. Again, we're driven largely by law. There are local contract elements that apply as well. And with FFCRA having now expired, I think a really good option for individuals to take is gone. We saw very little chatter back in Washington, D.C. as this current relief bill that we're benefiting from, going to benefit from, was being addressed, that FFCRA just died. So it's left, I think it's left a big hole in what we can do for our employees, where now they're going to be looking at using their own leave or using, you know, doing FMLA or other options. So we do have, I think it's important that we say, as we're working towards reopening, we have a real clear obligation to work in such a way that we're able to maintain a workforce, right? And so if we were to bring people back in a way that then cases became rampant and we don't have teachers who can teach, or custodians who can clean, or paraprofessionals who can support a student, and so on, if we don't have them in adequate numbers and quality, then we really could see some, I mean, we think this is hard right now. I mean, the availability of substitutes right now for any position is minimal. It's worse than minimal. We're in a very, very challenging situation there. So we're very cognizant of the fact that as we take actions and make decisions now, we do have to balance out all these competing interests, getting kids back in person, but also knowing that we have to be able to ensure that our employees can stay healthy and on the job, because a classroom without a teacher available is not a place where kids are going to learn, right? So that's the answers to those questions, Kevin.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Okay, as I mentioned before, this doesn't require any action on our part, so we're just going to move on to item 2, the revision of Board Bylaw 9323 on meeting conduct.
Okay. So this agenda item is here. Catlin became the president of the board at our meeting on December 17th. And she spoke to the fact of wanting to run efficient meetings in terms of process and time. And so as we looped back to our board bylaw regarding meetings, in section 5, currently states that individual speakers shall be allowed 5 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. So the question that's before the board tonight is, to what degree, if any, do you wish to adjust the speaking times? Catlin's suggestion, and I can't remember if I included it in the cover page or not, is that they be adjusted to 3 minutes per person. We actually, Catlin, you and I didn't talk about the length on a topic. And so I'd encourage that to be part of your guys' discussion tonight.
Sure, and let me just start, since it was something I was thinking about. My goal is to increase the number of participants that we have, so we hear a lot more voices. I've received emails from people who say, you know, your meetings go to almost midnight, this is too long, I couldn't stay awake, I have kids, you know, all understandable stuff. Our bylaws also have a provision where, and it says with board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation. So what Luke had been doing essentially before was, although we had a 20-minute window, as you all know, many of our discussions went beyond that 20-minute window. The flexibility is there to do that, to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. But I'm really looking at, again, just trying to be efficient and trying to, you know, get folks to speak and increase participation. And to do that in 3 minutes rather than 5 minutes. And very few of our folks go to over 5 minutes anyway, but I just wanted to put sort of a cap on that. If there was a reason you all wanted to have that be increased for some specific item, we could certainly do that, but it would be more likely we'd increase the amount of overall time with board consent. So I'm just throwing that out there, and I'll open for discussion for board members.
I would be okay with it as long as there was a visible timer. That way it let people know we were treating everyone fairly, and like people could see their comment was coming to an end, didn't have to be rudely interrupted. It could just be like, look, it's at 0, you know. I think if there was a visible timer, I would be open to it.
I know the Board of Supervisors has a visible timer, and at the end of, you know when you've been talking for 2 minutes, and then at 3 minutes, your mic goes off. I'm not suggesting that we do anything that austere, but I concur. And even though Luke used to say, if someone before you has said what you were going to say, kind of pass, but that didn't happen. And so I would like also to confine the time to 20 minutes, 21 minutes, if 7 people took their 3 total minutes.
Okay.
Because, by the 7th person or 8th person or 10th person, almost everything has been said about a particular topic.
Other board members?
Yeah, I would say this, like I'm all the 3 minutes I think is a good thing. I do think that if there are 10 people though who want to speak, I think if we're going to be a board that it's going to encourage people to be involved and we want to hear more people, I think we need to be able to allow for a longer period of time if it needs to go. There have been topics where there's been lots of people who've wanted to speak. And so I think if we shorten the amount of time that each person can speak, it will allow for more people to speak. But I think if it's a topic, I just think, for example, I'm not saying we're doing this, but cutting sports, for example, right? You know that we would have 100 people who want to speak, and they actually, because we represent them, have every right to speak. And even if they are repeating the same thing, they have their right to express their view from them. So I think, if it's my opinion, I think we're not to cut it off necessarily at 20 minutes, but to limit each person to speak for 3 minutes.
I think I agree with that. I agree with you, Melissa.
Lloyd? Yeah.
I'm relieved that you're doing this, because I've been through board meetings with you folks that have gone almost into midnight.
Yes.
And we just can't do that. We really can't do that. So I think 3 minutes is an appropriate amount of time. Your rules of order, by the way, say that a person could speak a second time if everybody else has exhausted their debate. That's what your rules of order say that you guys use. But also the other thing is, staff, when they do presentations, they can't do a presentation for an hour. I mean, that just can't be done. You lose a lot of interest that way. And so if staff can also ensure that their presentations are concise and to the point, then that would be beneficial. And we won't have these midnight masses that occur, in our board meetings.
Yeah, Lloyd makes a really good point, and Brian and I have talked about that, about keeping staff presentations shorter. And, and I just want to emphasize that on the board end of things, we have an obligation also to do our homework before we get here, to make sure that we've done our reading. And so really what we're talking about then is, we are debating topics that are on the agenda rather than learning about the topics for the first time. And I think that's on us too, to really be cognizant of that. So my question about, Brian, this is really a question to you about the timer. So the Board of Supervisors meets they meet in person mostly, and their timer, I believe, is in the room, Jewel, isn't it? I was just on a board meeting.
Yeah, it's right. It's at the when you go to the podium to talk, it's right there, and it's green, and then it's yellow, and then it's red.
Right. And so I'm just sort of wondering how we can do that in a Zoom format. I mean, perhaps there's a screen share we can put up as people begin and do some sort of timer.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Catlin, might be the best option at this time. The city council chambers where we meet in normal times has had a system. We've had a total revamp of all of the AV and other systems over there. So I imagine they have a system that's at least as effective, if not. I haven't watched a council meeting. I'm sorry to the city of Dixon or public planning commission or anything. I don't know if they have a display going now or not. That's something we could look into. But at the worst, having somebody with their camera focused on a clock, and that square is always on our screen. That's a cheap and easy way, perhaps to do it. So I think in 2021 we should be able to figure out the technical element of this without too much problem. If I could, I just wanted to make sure, this is highlighted for the board, really kind of focused on the first sentence of this section. And there was a reference to this, but something that a couple of you said made me want to draw back to it. So with board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. So if it is 100 people, because we're going to axe sports, which again is a hypothetical example.
We're not going to do it, right?
Don't go and say Brian proposed axing sports tonight. You could, and it says the president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they. So could say, show me, please raise your hand or put your hand in the queue if we're Zooming. And then you could make the determination, given this number of people, board members, are you okay saying that we're going to go with 90 seconds or a minute for this? So that the bylaw allows for that adjustment within a meeting based on the circumstances with regard to comment that are happening at the time.
Yes, and I appreciate you making that clarification. And I think the reason I wanted to specifically address the 3 minute is so that people knew the expectation coming in, knowing that we can change it. I mean, we could vote to change it to 1 minute because there were 100 people and we wanted a 1 minute, presentation. But I just want folks to be clear on our expectations in terms of our regular meeting format sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay,
And
so
if it would make everyone feel better to put a 3 minute timer on me, I am willing to accept that. And
Catlin, I had commented on a city council meeting a couple, maybe a month ago, and there wasn't a timer, just so you know. Like I know when you go in person, there's a timer that starts when you speak, and there wasn't one on the screen. So I just thought I would point that out. And I think something that sometimes people don't know is, our meetings used to start at 6 for the board and 7 for public. And I feel like when we started everything an hour early, but our meetings are still going just as long, if not longer.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. I appreciate, Melissa, you mentioning that. And so we will work on the timer issue, but really this is limited to just the 3 minute change, I think, in terms of our proposal right now. And so I'm going to open for public comment if all the board is done talking right now. And then we'll come back for a motion. So Mike.
Thank you. As my email, don't think this should be a policy change. I think that, it's an enforcement thing. We're in a special time. I've seen board meetings go 30 minutes. I think you guys have a competition on that or something because it's pointed out every time. So that's, money in the bank owed back. Maybe it's a balancing of how many things we put on the agenda, but I don't think that it needs a policy change. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Kathleen.
Yes, hi again. I completely understand, the goal to try to expedite our meetings. I think it's reasonable to propose, limiting public comment per agenda item to 3 minutes per person. However, I'd just like to point out that just because multiple people during public comment may share the same sentiments, it doesn't mean the way that they'll express, articulate, and explain those sentiments will be identical. And I think that if we were to err on the side of trying to just, have one person speak per, I guess, idea and standpoint, we're really going to miss out on divergent views, which could potentially, limit our understanding thoroughly of a topic. And furthermore, I'd also like to state that I think that if we do invoke and use the provision where we reduce public comment to 20 minutes per topic, that I really feel like that's antithetical to engaging our community, our staff in civic discourse around, different items that impact our students and our community at large. So I'd like to advocate that we avoid using or implementing the provision for 20 minutes. And I think, and I agree with Melissa, and Melissa, I really appreciate, the logic behind if we do limit people to 3 minutes, forcing them to be more concise, I think will still allow for us to get through, discussion around topics rather efficiently, but still invite discourse from all of our community and staff. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kathleen. Are there any other comments from the public at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Brian, I didn't hear specific questions in there. Is there anything?
No, nor did I, no.
Okay, great. So I'm actually going to make the motion on this because I brought it to the board. So I'm going to move that we change this board policy so that individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. So I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Let's see, I'm going to start with Jewel.
Aye.
Lloyd.
Aye.
Melissa.
Aye.
DJ.
Aye.
And I as well. Motion passes. Thank you all.
And can we check with Luke on is.
I'm so sorry. I've forgotten you twice now. Sorry about that. Luke, I'm
Principal
sorry.
vote, sorry.
Aye.
Thank you, Luke. I'm so sorry. My bad. Okay. We are on annual selection of board member representatives.
Yep, so we have done this at a couple different times over the years. At the organizational meeting in December, we did it one time, I think during the summertime before the school year started. And as we have a newly constituted board, and we had a very large agenda back in December, we decided to put this on this evening's agenda. So I'm gonna let Catlin, if you would like to kind of take us through the process of filling in these committees and site liaisons.
Great, thank you. And everybody, I think, has the chart in front of them of who's on which boards and which boards are available. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through in order of seniority, and all I want to know from you, the first pass, is there a place where your name currently appears that you do not want it to appear? So do you want to stay on the boards you're on? We're not adding yet, we're just subtracting now. So look at the boards that you are on, the school that you represent. Is there anything that you want to change?
When you say you, am I considered Luke, or am I just not a part of this part of
You are not a part of this, yes, because
Okay,
your
got it.
name does not appear, right? So so when we go back and we're adding, so it's hard to, we can't subtract from you right now. So when we go back and we add, then you'll be part of that. So so I'm gonna say, like I said, we're just gonna go in order of seniority. So I'm gonna say that I'm gonna stay on the one that appears here for me on the Agricultural Advisory Committee. I am open to switching school sites if someone else would rather have my school site. So I'm going to start with that. And then I'm going to go to Melissa, who is next in order of seniority. Melissa, do you have anything you want to subtract?
Yes, I actually am on lots of committees, and I would
You
be willing
are.
to pick up the teaching and learning committee.
Okay, so you want to stay on your other ones, and do you want to stay with C.A. Jacobs?
Yes.
Okay, great. And I think, Jewel, you're next in order of seniority.
Okay. I have a question though before I give my preferences. We don't have alternates, so are we going to do that tonight?
If we have enough folks who want to volunteer to be alternates, we'll do that. If not, we'll just, some of them, for instance, the Ag Advisory Committee, meets twice a year, and really it hasn't even met twice a year, but this last year. But I mean, there's no real need for an alternate for that, but if someone wanted to be, certainly we could do that.
Okay, and I have another question about the LCAP, because that has changed. So, does that affect the committee?
I do expect that LCAP to come back though, Brian, right? I mean, is that?
Yeah, actually the invitations went out for our first LCAP meeting today. So the committee will be meeting. I don't remember if it's beginning next week or the week after. I think it's next week.
It's next week, and I just didn't include board members pending tonight's.
Okay, right. So the rest of the committee has been constituted and received invitations. So we'll see where you folks end up tonight. But there will be similar 3:30 to 11:30 p.m. meetings, Jewel.
Okay.
For the LCAP.
I would very much like to stay on the, it's taking away, right?
We're just subtracting, right? At this
We're
point, what
just
do you not want to
subtracting.
stay at? Yes.
Okay. If someone wants Gretchen Higgins, since I have 3 schools, and I spent a lot of time at Gretchen Higgins, I can either subtract it or keep it.
Okay.
But otherwise, just keep me the same.
The same as you are. Perfect. Great. Okay. And Lloyd?
I'm not sure all the committees I'm on.
It looks like you're on the budget subcommittee. I don't see, Brian, is he on something? It looks like that's all there is right now is budget subcommittee.
I believe
I
so.
think I'm also on the school safety committee.
Yeah, and we were doing this, some short-term ones as we were going through the summer. And I guess that begs the question of, does the board have interest in forming any additional committees or subcommittees, right?
Okay, let me add that one.
Wasn't there something about diversity? I can't remember what it's called exactly. Wasn't that?
There's an equity task force that's underway that does not have a board representative on it. To a degree, for the same reason that I'm not on it, that we were trying to minimize decision makers or people with more power or influence within the organization. So that's why I don't serve on it, and we didn't open it up to board members.
Okay. So Lloyd, you want to stay on the budget subcommittee, and then we may add you to some more, but for right now, it looks like budget subcommittee is the only one on this list.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So, and then DJ, again, I'm just passing on you only because you're not on this list at the moment. So now we have a variety of openings. And what I'm going to do is the same process to fill openings. And then it may be that in the end, we have some places where we're going to just have to Rochambeau because, somebody's got to fill the spot and we don't have somebody to do that. But I want to go and do some preference additions. So again, I am, maybe we can do the school sites one last, because again, I can do any of them. I'm happy to be somewhere else. So I'll leave that one open for now, but I'm going to add myself as board president to the 2x2. So that is filled except for alternates at this point. And that's the only one that I want to add myself to right now. So I'm going to go to Melissa. Do you have any that you want to add?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Jewel, do you have any that you want to add?
I would like to be on the 2x2 also.
Can we put you as an alternate this time?
Pardon me?
Can we put you as an alternate this
all right,
time?
okay.
Great. Okay. All right. Anything else that you want to add?
No.
Okay. All right. So Lloyd, I'm going to go to you next. Are there ones that you want to add, knowing the vacancies? So where Luke's name is, obviously there's now a vacancy, and then there's a couple of other vacancies as well. Looks like.
I'd like to be considered for the facilities.
Okay.
Committee, the Ag Advisory Committee, and Dixon High School.
Okay. Great. Okay. And DJ, so now we'll come to you. It looks like there's an opening on the Teaching and Learning Subcommittee, the liaison with the Citizens Oversight, LCAP Advisory. Yeah, that's what it looks like right now. And then we can talk about alternates as well.
The ones I wrote down were Gretchen Higgins, where Jewel said she'd be interested in leaving that one.
Okay.
Dixon High, because I'm a high school teacher, and Teaching and Learning, because I'm a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the three I wrote down initially.
Would you be interested in serving on as a liaison to the Citizens Oversight Committee?
Yeah, Tad was a cool guy. I'll roll with Tad. I'm down.
Okay. All right. Great.
That one,
Yes.
I also attend that one regardless. So I don't know if I need to formally be on the oversight committee, but I do attend that.
Does one of you want to be it and the other one could be an alternate, or do you just
I'll
both?
be the alternate.
Okay.
Let DJ be the primary lead.
Catlin, also, I do think on that one, it's okay to have two board members.
Yeah, it is. I was asking if they wanted to be an alternate or they both wanted to attend. Yeah, for sure.
Because I used to go too.
Yeah, and there's nothing that says we can't all go to listen. It's just that interaction. It's just the interaction that's limited when more than a couple board meeting members are on. Okay, so it looks like we have all of them filled except for schools, and so we should circle back to that. So what I have right now is I have DJ on as Gretchen Higgins, Lloyd on as Dixon High School, Jewel Main Prairie, Catlin Dixon Montessori, Jewel Migrant Center, and so Anderson and Tremont are up for grabs. And I can take another one, or somebody else can take two. So thoughts on that? Does anybody have a preference? Or and LCAP. It looks like we need one more on the LCAP as well.
I'll volunteer for the LCAP if you need a volunteer.
Okay.
Thank you, Lori.
Great. All right. So is anybody,
I can do Anderson if no one's taking Anderson.
okay, I will, I'll put you on Anderson then, DJ, and I will take Tremont.
Okay.
Unless somebody else just wants to take it. I mean, I have one, but I can certainly take another. That's fine to do both. So any thoughts? Okay, great. I think, and one thought just about the school sites that I want to point out, and we can go over this. We'll have a board workshop, Brian. We're going to ask you to organize a board workshop for us. But one of the things I want to point out is that with school sites, if it's not the school that you are assigned to, we have a board protocol of making sure Brian knows when we go to other schools. So just sort of a heads up, I'm going to go to another school site that's not the one that I'm assigned to, or I'm going to talk to another principal, not the one I'm assigned to, just so we all sort of are kept in the loop around some of the conversations. So otherwise, your school site is a place where you interact, with the principals and staff and those sorts of things, attend their events, and make sure you have a connected relationship there. So any additional committees that we want to add? Anybody have an idea of an additional committee they want to add that they think we need at this point? Okay, all right. Well, I think then this process is complete. Is it anybody want to be an alternate for anything they're not yet an alternate for? If not, I think we've had a pretty good success rate of getting people to meetings, so I'm not too concerned about alternates, but okay, great. I think our process is complete, Brian, and I don't think we need action on this, right?
No, not. And that went really smoothly. Catlin, thank you for doing that. And I just want to make a comment, really for the benefit of those tuned in. The amount of time, especially in the last, probably 2 years, we started forming these subcommittees and meeting regularly. And when I think about, especially these last 10 months, and how much time the board has put into to meeting with the administrative team, LCAP, the LCAP committee, the oversight committee, and everybody else, it's easy to think from the outside, board members show up and do these meetings twice a month, and the boards in Dixon have really invested an awful lot of time in these, and it's to the benefit of our governance in the district. So I just wanted to acknowledge and express my appreciation for your willingness to do these parts of the work. I have been superintendent without these subcommittees. We're much more effective with them. So thank you for your commitment to filling those roles. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you, Brian. Yep. And looks like we are now on item number 4, approval of change order number 8.
Yes, change order number 8, a number that
wait, hang on, let me go back and see if there's any public comment on our.
Sorry, yes.
We didn't take action, but is there public comment on item number 3, the annual selection of board member representatives? Any public comment? Okay, seeing none, moving on to item number 4.
Actually, let me loop back. You made me think of something there somehow. Lucas,
yes.
Are there any of these that you have interest in joining? There's no Brown Act consideration because Lucas is not a voting member of the board. So we can't have three board members sit on a committee because then it's a quorum and those types of things. There's nothing that prevents you from joining any of these committees. And a number of them meet during the school day. And so there's challenges there. But I think with your permission, Catlin, asking Lucas if there's something he'd like to try to join in, your voice would be important. And some good experience for you as well.
Yeah, the only one that really caught my eye was Gretchen Higgins. I want to work with Miss Mack at some point.
Okay.
And you, of course, DJ, but I went to Gretchen Higgins, and that would be great to work with her closely to do some student stuff. So
great.
If I could join that one, that would be great.
Perfect. Okay, good.
Perfect. Added you to the list. Great. Thank you, Lucas. All right, moving on to our next item then. And thank you, Brian, for bringing that up. That was a great suggestion.
You bet. Okay, so change order number 8. We wish we had gotten through our project without that large a number, but here we are. Our last change order, the board approved in our first meeting in August. So this before you tonight really does represent about 5 months of construction over at the site. The vast majority of the items on this change order are things that have been discussed with the facility subcommittee members. That's been Melissa and Luke prior to his departure. And a number of these have also been, to some degree at least, shared as issues with the oversight committee as well. So what I have adopted as a practice here is I will highlight any change order item that is at a value of $10,000 or more. It prevents us from going through all 62 or 63 of these. It explains some of the bigger ticket items. And then should anyone have a question on anything of the smaller range, I'd be happy to go through. So with your permission, change order item number 169, previous Prop 39 economizers, condensates, and T-stats, that's thermostats. So this is some additional work in HVAC around the units that were previously installed on the campus. So basically making those units work. 170, telescoping bleacher modifications. So we have brand new bleachers in the big gym. And once those items went into the facility, we needed to make just some small modifications related to the safety functioning of them. So that was an unforeseen condition. Number 177, this is something we did talk with Luke and Melissa about. In the big gym, some ceiling modifications. We had intended to keep the acoustical tiles that were up there, and there were problems with too many of them. And so those have been removed, and we this cost of $143,000 and change was the removal. The existing ceiling surface was painted, and there's new acoustical materials which have been applied to the gym ceiling in there. 178 for $15,589. Some ductwork and bracketing also in the gym. Once you get into that facility, you will see some massive ductwork and heating, ventilation equipment that never existed before. So just some work to ensure safety there. Number 182 was for the trellis outside the multipurpose room. We had some issues there with dry rot and such, and because of the height of them, we had to get DSA approval on the work, and that complicated it and drove the cost up to the $25,809 that you see. Building A restroom subfloors. In Building A is a raised foundation equivalent, I'll call it that, kind of comparing to home construction. And we found much more dry rot and problems in the subfloors and the restrooms than had been anticipated. So those subfloors had to be replaced. 184, $129,871. As we went through the re-roofing process, we found extensive dry rot in the roofs in B wing, C wing, and in the canopy over the walkways. So all of that dry rot had to be repaired. 185, new lights in the A wing for $11,543. One of several here that you'll see. So 186, 187, and 189 are all related to flooring that went into A wing in particular. As we got further into the project, we saw two things that were problems. One, we had some rooms with hardwood flooring, and those had been sanded down and worn down to the point where nail heads were above the surface level of the hardwood, and were posing a safety problem. You also had a moisture barrier issue out in the hallway as well, both in the classrooms and in the hallway. So essentially, we had to refloor the entire A wing, which was a lot of space. So you saw 3 different items here: $43,375, $23,943, and $62,338. So an awful lot of money invested in the flooring there, unfortunately. And number 193 for $131,315, and Melissa has heard about this one extensively. And I think we talked about it on our tour there before the holidays. In A wing, the necessity of a 2-hour rated firewall where one was not present. And so that cost us a huge amount of time as well as money in getting that up to code. That was a code requirement. 195 and 196, there is the mechanical well over the multi-purpose room. There is the original equipment there that heats and somewhat cools that small gym multi-purpose complex. And we had some dry rot and mechanical issues down in that well. And so you see 2 items there, one for $36,897, the other for $65,584. We have worked very hard to not have to replace the entire unit up there. It would have added hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs because we would have had to redesign and rebuild the roof on that complex. 199 is the cost of a new marquee sign and all the related work around it for $55,742. Number 204, epoxy floor remediation. I think you guys heard about this a little bit, at least Melissa did, in restrooms all across the campus. The surfaces were uneven, and had we placed the epoxy flooring down without remedying the unevenness, we would have had standing water. We would have had puddles basically, and we wouldn't have drained to the floor drains. So work had to be done basically to slope the floors to the drains before the epoxy went down. You see 212 is another $47,563 on that firewall up in A building. 213 was a code compliance issue in a wall. We had a wall opening with some concrete that had to be adjusted for $17,575. The clear story window in the gym lobby, 215, very unique window situation that required a redesign basically to weatherproof it at the cost of $21,021. Blue lamp repairs on the northwest end of the small gym. You had some dry rot, no, actually it was termite damage that required that replacement repair for $16,731. 220, we were attempting to not replace all of the marker boards on the campus to save some money. And as we got closer to completion, and those, we attempted to clean those and really get them into a usable form. We needed to go with new marker boards, so they would be effective. So that was $20,000, various places on the campus. 221 for $30,171. Some new fence gates on the west side of campus. So these are adjustments to fencing, basically to ensure functioning gates on that side. And 226, the startup on existing HVAC units on the campus. We installed the HVAC units prior to the renovation project through Prop 39, and we did not we did not start those units up at the time because we had to re-roof and other parts of the project. So it's normal that you would have costs of commissioning and starting up those projects. So those units. So $43,149 there. The total amount of this change order is $1,309,923.07. So I'll take any questions anyone has.
Any board questions? Nope. Okay. Lucas, anybody questions? Nope. Okay. I'm gonna go then to public comment. I will take Mike first.
Hello, I know nothing I say will change anything because it's all been completed and done, and this is a formality, but that's not going to stop me. You know, I have concerns with the 2-hour wall that costs so much. This should have been, you know, a part of the design, and we're rehiring the same architects to do the Anderson project that are missing things like this that are costing us, you know, we've gone from 10 million, now we're at $15 million. This project's getting out of hand. And the district is just spending money that they shouldn't, you know, on their, you know, looks of stuff. And we're really taking away from Anderson, you know, when we're spending $55,000 on a marquee sign, and you know, Mr. Dolan said the brackets and the ductwork, but that was for painting. You know, it wasn't a safety issue. You know, that could have stayed the color of the sheet metal, and that would have been just fine. That's $15,000 there. I also question, you know, that we're having custodial staff going over there and waxing the floors, but I thought that, you know, we have this big conflict of interest to where they can't be working in there. So I'm wondering why we don't just have our existing HVAC person do the startups and stuff like that. And I believe some of this we've already paid for in the commissioning. I know all the T-stats were new. So I question all these change orders. And I'm trying not to bore you with details because I know it doesn't matter. But it seems we're really getting billed for things 2 and 3 times is ridiculous. You know, that we've already paid for. $16,000 for a glue lamp repair. Hell, Malaysia, you know, I did most of the work on that. We cut everything out, repaired the termite damage. All they had to do was slap in some boards. So $16,000 for that is crazy. $10,000 for a copy power line. I mean, did you not know you're going to need a copier over there? And $10,000 to run data in a power line is just ridiculous. But it's come to what I've expected on this project: total mismanagement, total overspending, and totally taking away from money from Anderson. And, you know, I think the most recent elections has showed that the state of California is tired of being taxed, and we're not going to pass any more taxes. We're not going to pay for any more bonds. So this is sad that we're taking away this much from Anderson. You know, we've 50% over budget on a project is ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Kathleen.
Hi again. I'm not sure if this has been addressed at previous board meetings regarding, you know, construction at John Knight Middle School. And I hope that this isn't too much of a non sequitur, but I am just wondering if Mr. Dolan, if you could speak to whether or not any mold abatement or any testing for mold has been conducted at the site, given that we did have to have the roof, I believe, replaced. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, is there any other public comment at this time? If not, I'm going to close public comment. Okay, Brian, can you go ahead and answer Kathleen's question about the mold abatement?
I would be happy to. Yes, mold, lead, asbestos. Aurora Environmental is the firm that performed all the assessments across the campus for those dangerous substances or elements, whatever you want to call them. So in, you know, there had been quite a bit of abatement that happened when we modernized that campus about 20 years ago, but we continued with those issues because you had leaking in A wing, especially around the office area. There was a huge amount of work done there with both dry rot and mold. So as I told Ms. O'Connor in an email earlier today, that facility has been inspected and all remediation has occurred on any of those issues, mold, asbestos, and lead. We had some lead paint that was still present there. All of those elements are covered by the project inspector, who signs off that the inspections have been completed. If he monkeys around with that stuff, he loses his license, therefore his career. And the contractor would similarly have significant legal issues proceeding with those things in place. And I would lose my job if we were not meeting the requirements there as well. So we are absolutely up to code with regards to mold, lead, and asbestos.
Great, thank
Okay.
you.
You betcha.
Okay, any other board comments, thoughts on this item before we move to a vote? Melissa, go ahead.
Just a couple things. One, I smile when I drive by because it looks pretty darn good. And I look forward to when we getting the landscape and the curb appeal done. But it looks really, really good. Another thing, as we talked a little bit about the ducting in the gym, originally that wasn't part of the contract, and CA Jacobs for years has not had air conditioning in the gym. And so when it's 100 degrees outside, we'd often have teachers and students getting sick, you know, doing physical activity in 100-degree weather. And I just am so happy that we have a very nice, big, if you walk in, you can see air conditioning in the gym.
Yeah.
And I look forward to us working on things like the drop-off areas and those kinds of things, kind of to finish up the project.
Yep.
And so I actually am really happy with the way that it's turned out.
Yeah.
Thanks,
You spent a lot of time on it through that facility subcommittee, Melissa.
All right, Lucas.
Yeah, so with pretty much all of these things that we're looking to spend the money on, will they affect when students will be able to come back or affect the student experience at all? Because I know construction can get in the way of like a lot of things, especially in gyms and stuff like. Will they be done by the time the kids are there?
That's a great question, Lucas. The next item, I'm going to talk a little bit about our status over there and progress. So if you can, if the anticipation won't bother you too much, I'll wait to answer that question until the next item.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, any other board comments?
I'd like to echo Melissa's thoughts about that. I mentioned the last board meeting that I was very impressed with the facilities. I mean, the tour that Superintendent Dolan and his staff gave us, I mean, it is a very impressive environment. I hope that the staff, the teachers, and when the students return, view that as a model facility, because it's really something to behold. And I'm waiting for the day to see positive publicity in the media over that, because I think we need to have the public know that they've spent money on that facility, but boy, it's really a top-notch facility. And I smile too, and I don't often smile, but I smiled during that tour because it is very, very impressive.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that too. My oldest granddaughter went to that school when it was a high school, and it was, you know, you look around and you go, oh boy, that looks like the high school I went to. You know, it's kind of in a time warp, and it looks so good now. It really does, and the steps that, you know, seeing it in the very beginning when it with big holes in the floor, and you know, it was just, and to where it is now, and it's amazing.
Yeah. It really is nice. Any other comments, thoughts?
If anybody wants to challenge me to a one-on-one game in the basketball court, I'm ready. Now that there's
I'll do it.
I'll
All
take
right.
you on.
Oh, Lucas, yeah.
Jules gonna take you on. There you go.
I'm trying to get dunked on. I see that. Okay.
We got a young buck in Lucas who's a good athlete. You better watch out there, Mr.
All
Ball.
right.
Yeah.
And Jewel, I only wish that your daughter's high school principal could be rehabilitated and renovated to the degree that her high school campus has been. So
Yeah,
you can pass that on to Ashley for me, please.
I will.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you all for those comments. So now I'm going to entertain a motion to approve our change order number 8.
So
I move that we approve it.
I'll
All right.
second.
Motion and a second. I'm going to go roll call vote. So Jewel,
Aye.
Lloyd,
Aye.
TJ,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Lucas,
Aye.
and I as well. Motion passes.
Great. Thank you, folks.
Great. And we're on to number 5.
All right, going to give you just a quick little verbal update and on our transition over to John Knight Middle School. So as of Monday, January 4th, we officially became occupants of that campus over there, not on the scale that any of us wished we were doing, especially with regards to students not being there, but we've made our move. And we get to stop calling that facility the old high school, which it has worn that label since the summer of 2007. And perhaps we'll finally start calling our now more than a decade old new high school the new high school, and perhaps we could just call it Dixon High. That would make things simpler for us. So I want to make sure that as I share that good news, that we recognize that the C.A. Jacobs campus was named after a longtime Dixon educator. Chris Jacobs was his full name, C.A. And that campus was named in his honor because of his contributions during his time as an educator here. And that campus retains his name, and the mascot remains there, and the school colors remain there. And as we figure out what we do with that facility in the long term, Mr. Jacobs will not be forgotten for his service here. So, and a lot of people in this town went through that facility and have mostly fond memories of it. Lucas most recently, and Catlin less recently.
Slightly less recently.
Yes, well, I'm not gonna qualify it. I'll just say less. So, 455 East A Street housed Dixon High School for a long, long time, even before the current facility was built. I've seen some pictures of the old place that was ultimately replaced. And we got buildings there. So A-Wing out front is 80 years old. 80 years old. It opened in 1940. And the new part of campus, the multipurpose room, small gym there along 4th Street was opened in 1978. So the newest part of the campus, 42 years old. And we have spent a heck of a lot of time and money and effort in whipping that place into shape. And it has had more surprises and twists and turns in it, very few of them positive. You had to do things like spend $500,000 on exterminators for termites, right? And things like that 2-hour firewall in A-Wing that the plans showed was there, but actually weren't, and other things like that. It's been quite a project. We have what's called an owner, architect, contractor meeting every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. I've been attending those since the beginning of the project, and it's our troubleshooting, problem solving update kind of meeting. And I took note just last week at that meeting that it was our 84th of those meetings. So they happen every week. So it felt both like a punch in the gut. And I haven't made all 84. I've probably done about 70 of them. But a punch in the gut and exciting that, okay, we're about done with this place. And we're getting very close. So we have had a limited start over there. We are continuing to finish up some of the final tasks that done, and then some of the finishing touches as well. So who's been there this week? The admin team, office staff, the custodial staff, and our campus supervision staff. Those people who can't work from home have been on the campus, along with a small number of other staff who can't work from home or work remotely for a variety of reasons. So it's been a pretty small crew. This coming Monday, everyone who wishes to work in person will be able to do so. So there's about 14 teachers or so who will be added into the mix on the campus as of Monday of next week. And that's really because some of these final things to get done, or some of the punch list items, they've made good progress on this week. So what kinds of things have been lingering? Finishing the drop ceilings in A wing has taken more time than was expected. So those are near completion now. We installed all new windows on that campus. So there's still some work happening there, painting trim around them, a little bit of the install work still going on in the music building. Otherwise, the whole campus has the new windows. The window coverings, the roll down shades, are going to be installed either starting tomorrow or on Monday. If you go there at certain times, you'll hear the fire alarms going. Fire alarm testing is happening and will continue for some time. We've got some keying work that's still going on, mostly with exterior doors, but the number of locks on that campus is kind of a staggering figure. So there's always adjustments there. You have all new heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems there. So there's a process that's called balancing, where you go through and all the units are adjusted to make sure that the intake and airflow out is balanced, and you're not stressing the machines by having a bad mix of air in and out. And then, there was about a day of about 7 hours, punch list day, where we walked the campus and took note of the little places where there was a smudge or a chip or something out of place. So those punch list items are happening as well. So obviously, we wish this project had been done some time ago. And, originally we were going to move into it in the fall. We weren't ready. For a variety of reasons that have cost us a lot of money with things that we discovered. It would be wonderful to have a great big splashy grand opening right now, but during the stay-at-home order in particular, we can't do that. The board members and the oversight committee members have been inside, and we want to get the public there as quickly as we can. We are working on the planning for a very small scale kind of ribbon cutting in the short term before we can throw things wide open. This campus is named for John Knight, who was born and raised in this town, went through schools here. After his education at Stanford University, he came back and worked as a teacher and administrator in the district. John lives over in Davis these days, and I have not had the pleasure yet of walking him around that place and showing him how different it is from the last time he was there. He retired in 2007. So excited to bring him around. So we are creating our list of people to invite. A small amount of staff at this point in time, our elected officials in the area, obviously the board and administrative team, and wanting to be able to at least stream that event so people could see. And then once we have the opportunity, COVID related, what we wanted to do and what we will do eventually is have a ceremony in the gym and then open the campus for a number of hours on a Saturday for anybody in community to walk through and be able to check the place out. We want to be able to bring over, and we may do this now in a different kind of way. We were going to bus the sixth graders over one day and let them tour the campus and see their classrooms and have lunch and maybe have a rally and things like that. we may have those kids walking to school or getting dropped off as they will when things happen, but we wanted to orient them. So we regret that we've lost those opportunities. Lucas, to get to your question, the final things that we're working on that I talked about there are really short-term things. The issue that is a longer-term one on the campus is the kitchen and feeding area over there. We ended up having to do just a whole bunch more work than we originally thought. So that part of the campus is a couple months at least away from being finished. So what we would be doing right now, if we were open, is we would be bringing food in, prepare food at Dixon High School, and bring it over and serve it over there. So if we had to open school next week, we'd be able to do that. With the exception that we wouldn't be able to use the full servery kitchen area that will ultimately be there, right? So we are excited about what this place looks like when you finally get to go there. Well, and right now, since we were there, all the furniture has been delivered, and most of that remains clustered in the center of rooms, and rooms have not been set up. Teachers have not been able to be there to have the opportunity to do that work. CA staff did get to go in on the 28th and 29th, I think, kind of set it up with Jody and Camila to go in and look around and see their teaching space and things of that nature. But all the furniture and equipment, I think with the exception of a little bit of music room equipment, has been delivered and has been distributed out in classrooms, as is always the case. Once you get there, you discover you need more of this or something that you forgot. And so Camila did put out a form to her staff yesterday, I believe, for them to be able to make requests for any furnishing or equipment that they don't have that they need. So we'll be addressing those kinds of needs. But it's furnished, and it is bright and clean and new looking and feeling, and even old stuff feels and looks new. Total redesign of the entry point on A wing, where you now have really a self-contained office for the first time ever over there. And Lloyd touched on this a little bit. This is just a great space, really a great space with an awful lot of amenities for a middle school campus. You just have an awful lot of core facilities and large classrooms and such that you don't find in middle school campuses that have been constructed in the last several decades, probably. A lot of us, I was principal on that campus for 8 years. A lot of us have, in this town, have really fond memories of life at Dixon High. And now we're going to build a lot of fond memories about life at John Knight Middle School as well. So board, you've been terrific through this whole process. We will be, once we get some of the ladders away, doing some video work and kind of that splashy PR stuff, Lloyd, that you're talking about. We're going to get going. We just have a few too many workers still traipsing around that place as things are getting wrapped up. So I'll take any questions you folks have.
Great. Are there any board questions? Nope. Seeing none, I'm gonna, go ahead, Melissa, sorry.
I just have one. Are teachers and staff happy with the new campus? That's
I haven't talked to many. Camila has shared with me that yes, anytime you go in and things aren't quite entirely finished, I think that may be a little bit unsettling. And when you get to the point of, oh, my furniture is set up and my room is my room, and obviously when kids get in there, that changes rooms into the magical places. It's not perfect, but it's good, and I moved into a home here in Dixon in March of 1999, And boy, it does not have everything that I would like it to have, and it's not tricked out with everything that would be fun and all that kind of stuff. But it's a good place to live, and I'm happy, and that's a good place to teach and to learn, and I'm happy about that campus as well. So we have, Mike's point about Anderson and other projects, those remain out there, and we will be transitioning to focusing on those as we finish up JK here. We did, you folks already approved the selection of architects. It will actually be a different firm who works on Anderson, not LPA. One of the, you guys approved 2 new firms back at the time where we brought those to you. So we will be talking to you really soon here about the planning process for the work at Anderson as well.
Great.
Is there a long-term plan for CA? Is it going to be a second middle school, or is it going to be morphed into a amazing elementary school, or just don't know yet, or what?
Yeah, we haven't developed that yet. With the Anderson project, there's a good chance at this stage that we'll have to do Anderson in stages because of how the funding is going to come to us. We had been having conversation about moving Anderson out of the site entirely for a year to let that place get modernized. And wow, we had an empty school across town in C.A. Jacobs. That's, I think, a less likely approach. We do have a lot of spaces in in Gretchen Higgins and Tremont where we could actually embed students there for a year, part of a year even, and then bring them back as we do parts of the Anderson campus at a time. We've had conversations about the alt ed program potentially moving over to the CA campus and having an appropriate home with the right facilities for their program, and maybe including some community classrooms and partnering with city or nonprofit groups, especially on that front part of campus. So that is a topic that we're going to be bringing to the board to begin to plan for here pretty quickly. What I know cannot happen is leave a facility vacant for 10, 11, 12 years, whatever it was, and have it kind of decay on you in a variety of ways. So that cannot happen again, and it won't. We're not gonna let that occur.
Great, thank you. Any other board questions? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open for public comment. I'll take Kathleen.
Hi there. So I just want to offer a comment in response to a question that Melissa had, and then ask a question to Mr. Dolan. Maybe the school board can also answer it. So Melissa, I was able to unpack my personal effects the first 2 days of the last week of winter break. And I have to say that while the campus is under construction, it's very inspiring to be over there. I've been teaching at C.A. Jacobs now for 10 years. This is my 10th year. And, like you mentioned, Mr. Dolan, like the true like cleanliness of the site and the brightness of all the paint, as well as like the, new furniture and just the layout itself is, it's very, again, inspiring. So I'm really
glad to hear that. Thank you, Kathleen.
You're welcome. I'm looking forward to, getting vaccinated. I'm looking forward to infection rates declining significantly. And I'm looking forward to being able to teach my students in person in a brand new campus. So hopefully that's helpful to hear, everybody. But my question, Mr. Dolan, and again, any school board members that can maybe speak to this if they've been working with Lee Coop with School Solutions is while JKMS admin is being really supportive and great with, trying to figure out ways that we can get, storage needs met and furniture needs met within the campus itself. I'm curious if ultimately after we kind of swap any possible, furniture that's been recently purchased through School Solutions, if it's not adequately meeting our needs, will we be allowed, or what will be the budget to possibly purchase new or additional furniture, or is it possible to even like return things that aren't necessarily serving our needs in order to, do kind of like a, a swap within School Solutions? Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Is there anybody else who wants to comment on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. And Brian, if you can go ahead and answer Kathleen's furniture question.
You betcha. And I'm proud of myself for not answering immediately. I'm trying to show progress. Good question, Kathleen. We have not expended all of our furniture and equipment budget. This is my second big new schoolish kind of project. I was heavily involved in the furniture and equipment process for Dixon High School when we moved in there, and now doing this one as well. And Lee, who's done this a million times, would tell you you're guaranteed to have things you need more of, or you forgot, or those types of things. So we have not expended all of our budget, and we are committed to going through and addressing people's needs to the highest degree that we can. You know, we probably won't be able to get everything that everybody wants. But hopefully there's some confidence amongst the staff that Camila did get out the form, Google form, for people to be able to say, hey, I'm needing this or that. You never know until you get into a place exactly what's required. And in terms of returning equipment or supplies, I don't know all of the details on that, quite honestly. We do have great support with Lee. And ultimately, the decisions about what we buy are ours to make. Lee supported us through the process and knows an awful lot. But even just this week, as I was going around the place, I was able to say, we need some more of this, or we missed this, or whatever. And ultimately, all those decisions, I have the final say on, with Camila and Jody and Lee's input and such. So we will continue to make progress on equipping the place as people need.
Great, thank you. Any other comments on this item? We are going to, it's an information item, so there isn't any vote on it. So any other board comments before we move on to close out our meeting here? Okay. So I'm looking now for agenda items for future meetings. Do any board members have agenda items for future meetings?
I had asked this previously about an update on our grounds work and what we are doing to update and paint the Dixon High School fence and to keep up on our curb appeal at our schools.
Okay, we'll bring that in.
Okay, anybody else? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to board announcements. Any board announcements?
I have one. I am now still on the Solano County School Boards Association. And one of the things that we're planning is a training for school staff, very similar to the trainings that we've had before, except those were one-time things. And this one is a 3-session training, about an hour and a half each one, and starting in March. They will probably be via Zoom rather than in person the way our other trainings were. And so there won't be, the last one we had, Vacaville and Dixon hosted, and the previous one was hosted in Vallejo, but Zoom will be hosting probably. And the topic, and I should very soon, and maybe our next meeting, be able to share with you a flyer. The topic is how school policies and community, like the city council policies, affect student learning, and develop a sort of a cohesive group rather than siloed working with students. And that, I think that's very positive. So I will be able to give you more information as soon as the flyer is developed.
Great.
Fantastic. Okay, any other board comments? I just want to note that kinder registration for Dixon Unified begins on January 13th. And with that, the only other date I want to mention is January 21st, which is our next regularly scheduled board meeting. So we'll all be back here then. So now I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
And there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jewel,
Aye.
Lloyd,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
DJ,
Aye.
Lucas,
Aye.
and I as well. A meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
And everybody, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.